Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Esports News. Axis rotation, however the flip you know me on these interwebs. And god damn!
Embarrassing!
God damn! My lord, look at this chat. A whole lot of red. Shout out to Playboy Cardi. God damn, chat. Oh my god, chat. I'm saying chat. No, YouTube. Hello. My lord, I didn't mean to swear 3 times. This video is going to get absolutely shadow banned beyond hell. So please be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're seeing this far into the video. And let's get right into it, because geez, I mean, wow. We kicked things off with the Boston Breach, new look Boston Breach with Spart taking on the Carolina Royal Ravens. Let's check out how that went down. Let's first get through our sponsored thing. So, as you know, I am partnered with codstats.com. I am a writer. Recently wrote this article on how G-Stake and PlayCracked work, which are the fantasy options on the website, where you can make weekly predictions based on who you think will win matches and player props and match props as well. So, without further ado, let's get into the schedule from last week, which were the Major 2 Week 3 quals, which started on Friday with Boston Breach taking on the Carolina Royal Ravens, like I just said. So as you guys can see, I wagered 588 of my hard-earned G-Stakes credits on this series, and they went to absolutely no one. They went right back to the system because Lurqxx hacked the system. He got into the mainframe, and yeah, he went 83 and 78, overturned the mainframe, you know, hacked into it, whatever you want to say, whatever analogy from the Disney movies you want to use. And then Spart, 106 and 74 on the other side. Those the other clear standout in the series. Nero, 84 and 79. So great showing from Carolina. They finally took all of their overslaying prowess and turned it into a win. Had to get some water. So we kicked things off with Nero going 35 and 28 on the Colossus map 1, and then Spart on the other side, on the winning side, going 40 and 23 to get the dub. Nasty 34 and 28, Purge 30 and 27, and Snoop 18 and 29. So Snoop got cooked, I'm not going to lie. But Boston got the win, so it didn't matter. Speaking of Snoop, in this map too, he cooked, but they lost around 11 to the Carolina side behind a 13 and 6 from the BK, who really just took over in this game with the boomstick. And yeah, he became the boomstick killer. You know, that's what the BK stood for in this map. Then Lurqxx, his SMG, was doing his thing. So yeah, you had Snoopy on the other side, 12 and 9, and then Nasty and Spart tried to do their very best. Nasty 7 and 7, Spart 8 and 8. Excuse me. In the game 3 Den Overload, the Boston Breach just took over. Spart was 28 and 16. He absolutely blacked out. And on the other side, Lurqxx was 21 and 19, but everybody else went negative. And on the Boston Breach side, everybody was in the green. So, the game 4, speaking of everybody being in the green, Lurqxx went nuclear. He was 27 and 14, 1.93, and the Carolina Royal Ravens conversely won this 250-109. On the other side, Spart was the only person to shoot back on the Boston side, 23 and 21, but everybody on the Ravens was positive. In the map 5, the Raid S&D, of course, that being where we ended the series, obviously. Exnid took over 7 and 2 as the KD leader. Craze was 9 and 4, Nero 7 and 4, and Lurqxx was 4 and 4, and they just stomped him. Spart was 7 and 6. He tried his very best, but yeah, I mean, this was just a Ravens skill diff. So, looking at the next series, that of course being the second series of Friday, we had the Celium versus Simp and Draza face-off that we have come to really enjoy in this CDL season so far, right? So Exnid, of course, the Falcons retained player from last season, the guy that they decided to build around this year, bringing in Pred, Celium, and Kismet to complement him. He's been absolutely frying. He's ready to go to the Major and really make a statement, right? So as you guys can see, I wagered 500 G-Stake creds on this. I lost all of them. Went right back to the house. House always wins somehow. And yeah, Exnid, he always wins, right? 1.36 KD, 103 kills, 76 deaths, 11,000 damage. So yeah, I mean, he absolutely fried. Great showing from Exnid. You guys know on the channel, I've been a big fan of this guy ever since I saw him in Black Ops 6, start to pick it up. And yeah, I mean, I've just been saying he's one to watch over the next few years, and he has been so far. Speaking of things to watch, Abuza had 160 seconds in the hill. This dude had literally 2 minutes and 40 seconds in the hill, and FaZe Vegas, Wow. Yeah, I mean, did they win either hardpoint? They didn't win either hardpoint. Damn. So, yeah, Booz was getting all the time, clearly. 104 seconds in this Colossus? Jesus Christ. So, looking at the scoreboard overall, you can see Exnid 103 kills, 76 deaths. He went nuclear. Selenium 71 and 61, Pred 85 and 74, and then Kizit slightly positive. Now on the FaZe side, Abuza was the only one to go slightly positive, 77 and 74. Then everybody else went negative. So looking at the map one, the Colossus HP, you of course had Exnid blacking out, 41 and 29. It's pretty much the story there, right? 250, 220. You have a guy going 41 and 29. Let's hope you win, right? Unless you're Nero and the Carolina Royal Raiders against Gentlemates, then in which case you won't win that map and you'll drop 48. Anyways, FaZe went all negative in the map 1, but in the map 2, they went all positive, whereas Abuza had the best KD overall, 6 and 4, and then 0-4 was 9 and 6, Draws 8 and 6, Simp 6 and 5, and everybody on the Falcons was negative, as you'd expect me only win 2 rounds. Map 3, Exposure Overload. Of course, this went the way of the Riyadh Falcons. To the surprise of really all of us, we thought FaZe, being the solid overload team that they've been all year, would probably take this, but you know, the Riyadh Falcons, they just looked really good here. Selling was 24 and 14. He was just taking over, dominating, putting that belt to Keister. And that's really all that really made a difference here. Exnid was frying 26 and 19. And then Pred and Kismet were solid contributors. But yeah, I mean, really it was just Sellium and Exnid pop off here that made the big difference. And that was really the gap that separated these two teams in this game. So looking at a gap that separated these two teams, the gap to Exnid and Sellium opened up on map 3, only got widened even more on map 4. Exnid blacked out once again, 32 and 21, Pred 27 and 21, and then Kismet 22 and 20, and Cell went even. Then on the FaZe side, Abuza was the only person to go positive. He was 26 and 20, and everybody else got absolutely fried. So, looking at our next series, we had C9 New York taking on the Paris Gentlemates. I'm really happy that I only put 200 G-Stakes creds on this series last week because the payout would have been terrible and the loss would have been definite, right? Because they definitely lost. So, looking at it, we of course had Encourage with a 1.24, 105 kills, 85 deaths, 14,000 damage. So, yeah, I mean, Encourage, the gem of the Stallions, if you will, the pride of the Stallions. He is really putting on for them. I mean, 1.24 against the Major 1 champs on a quote-unquote pickup team. Most typical thing I've seen all year, without a doubt, right? 1.22 from Sib on the other side. Neptune went barely positive. And then Ghosty and Envoy both had negative KDs. So that's tough. That's tough. Speaking of tough, we started out with a tough statement from the C9 side. They, of course, won map 1 with a 250, a 215 performance on their end, behind 37 and 30 from that kid from Fortnite, Ocus. So there it is, right? And then on the mate side, Ghosty, Neptune, and Sib went positive. Well, Neptune and Sib went even, and then Ghosty had a slightly positive KD. So yeah, I mean, they just got cooked. They just got cooked. That's all that can be said. C9 just looked really good. They looked locked in. Their rotations were on point. Their breaks were on point. They just looked like a really good team. And this map too, the exposure S&D, of course, everybody on mates went negative, and then Hyde was 12 and 5, Ocus was 7 and 4, Nezra was 8 and 7, and Encourage went even. And then the map 3, Gentlemates finally got back. Neptune 33 and 27, Ghosty 27 and 24, 23 and 23 out of Envoy, and Sib also went even. And then Encourage on C9 went positive, 31 and 22 for the L. In the map 4, Colossus HP, of course, the Gentlemates behind Sib's 47 and 26 performance absolutely blacked out and forced the game 5, where they ended up miraculously losing to Cloud9 and Hyde, who dropped 13 and 5 for the dub in the game 5 against our defending Major 1 champions, who look to be the best team in the game, I might add, right? So, yeah, this was definitely a very, very serious statement when on the side of C2. C9, yeah, we'll see what they can do to build off of that. In the weekend, they didn't, but going into this week, this upcoming week, I'm really curious to see how they build on that momentum. So, speaking of building on momentum, my G-Stake losses did not stop. Just like horses don't stop, they keep going. G-Stake losses for me last weekend, they did not stop. They kept going. And so did Caesar Skies, 1.26 KD, 96 kills, 76 deaths. And then on the other side, Pred had a 1.17, 183 kills, 88 deaths. Slayem 87 and 78. And then Kremp on the G2 side was the other person to go positive with a 1.14, 107 kills, 94 deaths. So, looking at the map 1, Scar HP, of course, Slayem was 30 and 24, Pred 38 and 31, Exnid was 36 and 35, and then Kismet went negative. And then on the G2 side, everybody went negative, and that's how Falcons got that dub. G2 was able to even things up in the series with a decisive 6-1 victory behind 7-2 from the guy carrying the boomstick, Caesar Skies, the man who invested in his game, and got great returns clearly, right? Estral 5-2, Kremp 7-4, and Mamba 7-4 as well. Then the map 3, we of course had a 5-0 on Scar Overload. The Falcons absolutely dominated them on this one. I mean, everybody on Riyadh went positive, with the exception of Kismet, who went -5, and then everybody on G2 went neg, like pretty convincingly. So just dominance. Pred 30 and 17, Cell 26 and 16, Exit 23 and 20. So great showing from them. And then map 4, we of course had a Colossus HP, which went the way of G2 Minnesota, forcing, of course, the fabled Game 5 that they always get to, right? Skies blacked out again, 34 and 15, 33 and 26 from Mr. Kremp himself, and Mamba 26 and 24. And then on the Riyadh side, everybody went negative with the exception of King Cobra, Mr. Slayem, who was 27 and 24. So in the Game 5, the Colossus S&D, we ran it back with another Colossus back-to-back. And of course, G2, they went back-to-back, winning both Colossus, Kremp Lossies, whatever you want to call them. Kremp went crazy on his namesake, 12 and 6. Skies, of course, was there to support him with 6 and 5. But when you have a guy off the leash going 12 and 6, what else can the other team do, right? Exnid was 8 and 7, Kismet was 7 and 7, but not enough to push that series to the brink and get it done. Now, speaking of series that were gotten done and pushed nowhere near to the brink, right? We had the Toronto Koi, the Toronto Kips, whatever you guys want to call them at this point, the Toronto Joe Deceives. I mean, we believe, right, at this point. So Joe, of course, the KD Leader Series MVP, 1.21 KD, 63 and 52 on the day. Super, of course, had a 1.35 for the L, 69 and 51. And then Kips, of course, the new rookie on the team, had a matching KD with Joe Deceives, more kills, but more deaths as well, 64 and 53. And then, of course, Insight, 48 and 44, and CleanX went slightly negative. So, looking at the map 1, we of course had a 250 to 182 scoreline from the Toronto Koi, who gave the Miami Heretics a vicious belt. They said, no Real, no problem. We're going to get back like we should have in that first series, and definitely in that series on land. So, yeah. So, Kips went 33 and 23. He was like, no Real, no win for you guys, right? So, no free dubs there. Joe Deceives 31-27, and then Insight went even. And on the other side, of course, Super had a 1.28. RenKoR had a 1.12, and Trakes went even. And then in the game 2, Den S&D. This, of course, went the way of the Toronto Koi, like we already know, as they won 3-0 in the series. 1.5 from Kips, 9 and 6. So great showing from him, great series. Super went 14 and 6. He went nuts for the L. And then, of course, Insight went even, as you'd expect. And in the game 3, of course, we had a Den overload, where the Toronto Koi surprisingly were able to absolutely body the Miami Heretics, who are a really good overload team and definitely a very good Den team, so quite surprising. Super had a 1.15, he went positive again, but for the L, Joe Deceives had a 1.39, Insight 1.24, and CleanX had a 1.19. This was the rare bad map from Kips, but didn't matter. You got a 3-0, right? So, speaking of 3-0s, we had another 3-0, but this time I lost even more G-Stakes creds. Excuse me. I did not win any G-Stakes creds up until Sunday night. So, yeah, just don't expect this to populate with anything for a while, okay? So, speaking of things that populated very quickly, we had the kill box populating very quickly for Mr. BK Exceed himself in this series. He was frying. I mean, it was just effortless. Everybody on Carolina, green light. Everybody on the Vancouver Surge, red light. You know, just like Squid Games. 1.49 from Exceed, 1.44 from Lurqxx, 1.31 from Nero, and Craze 1.24. So these guys were just feasting. And yeah, not a lot else to say. Looking at the map 1, Blackheart HP, Lurqxx absolutely blacked out, 29 and 21. I mean, it's not a blackout, but he's frying, you know. The whole time he was just doing Lurqxx things. Nero 26 and 20, 26 and 22 from Exceed, and Craze slightly neg. And on the other side, Gwyn, of course, what else would you expect, right? Gwyn goes slightly positive and, slays out. In the map 2, speaking of getting slayed out, the Carolina Royal Ravens slayed them out very convincingly. 9-4 from Craze, 9-5 from Exnid. Nero went even, and everybody on the Surge went neg. And then in the game 3, the Overload, of course, the Carolina Royal Ravens ran up the score and just sent us all home pretty early. They were like, this LA Thieves series is probably going to be pretty fun, so we'll send you guys a little bit faster. I was like, cool, thanks. Thanks, Exnid. And yeah, Exnid went 20-10, Lurqxx 25-14. Then, of course, you had Craze 25-16 and Nero 20-14. So, yeah, just a great showing from the Carolina Royal Ravens. They blacked out on those guys and absolutely farmed them. So, speaking of people blacking out and absolutely farming, we had Mr. Warlord himself, Shotzzy, 100 kills, 79 deaths, 1.27 KD on the day. And then, of course, Dashy, his duo over the years, had a 1.26, so great showing from that duo. And Huke, 1.14. Mercules, rare bad series where he went negative, but yeah, it's going to happen at some point, right? On the LA Thieves, Hydra went even and everybody else went negative, so let's look at it. Map 1, the Den HP. Of course, the MVP of the map was Mr. Scrap himself. He went 36-28, 1.29. Hydra had a 1.12, 28-25. Neum was 27-25, and then Abizi went even. And on the other side, for the L, OpTic Texas had Shotzzy barely going positive, 31-30. In the map 2 exposure S&D, of course, we had Huke going absolutely nuts. The nuke was nuking 9-3, Mercules 5-3, Dashy 4-3, and Shotzzy went even. And on the other side, Hydra just went slightly positive 7-6. In the map 3, Den Overload, we of course had everybody on the LA Thieves going negative, Mercules being the only player on OpTic to go slightly negative, and then everybody else having at least a 1.11 being the lowest KD from Huke. Shotzzy 1.3 and Dashy 1.65, so they just fried him. And then in the map 4, Colossus HP, of course, this is where we close things out. OpTic just looked phenomenal here, 37-23 from Shotzzy, 32-24 from Dashy, 37-28 from Huke, and 32-32 from Hydra to close out that series. So yeah, LA Thieves, I mean, just a rough showing in the series against OpTic. I think against every other team that they face, they'll definitely look more dominant, but yeah, I think OpTic just looked to be back in form. So, speaking of people who look to be in form, the Toronto Koi, they started off our Sunday with a very, very surprising upset. I thought this would go 5. I thought this would be a really fun series. Let's look at the pick'ems. Let's see how I forecasted this. Oh, I had this at 3-1 for Mates. Wow, I was very convinced that Mates would take that handedly, but yeah, I mean, the only handed thing was an L to Mates, right? So, yeah, I mean, let's look at it, right? Like, as you guys can see, Joe Deceives was the MVP for the second time. 1.22 this time. What do you have last time? 1.21? 1.21. So, KD went up 0.1. Impressive improvement. 67-55 from Joe. Kips had a 1.1 this time. Insight had a 1.06, and then Kleenex went slightly negative, but he's back on SMG, so you expect him to maybe have a few more deaths thrown in there than he did with an AR. On the other side, Neptune had a 1.15, and Ghosty went even. Envoy had a really bad series. He was neg 21, so yeah, that'll just about do it. Looking at the map 1, you had a 250-241 Den HP coming out from the Toronto Koi. Very, very decisive victory from them. Insight took over big time here. He was 31-23 in this map. He was frying. He was getting 3 pieces, 4 pieces to close out the game. He was on another level. Kips, Joe Deceives, and Kleenex, they provided obviously a lot of support. That's why they won the map. But this was definitely an Insight takeover game. Definitely showed the Insight still has massive impact on these games. And when he's on point, he's a really, really important part of this team in terms of contributing to wins. So looking at the other side, Ghosty was 31-26 for the L. Envoy went even, and so did Neptune. And then Sid went slightly negative, but 9-point game. I mean, the kills don't really matter as much. It's just a couple key moments and like a big moment that swings the game momentum-wise that allows for the ending to go one way or the other, right? So we get into the map 2, Scar S&D, where we go to round 11. The MVP, of course, is who else but the new upstart rookie Kips, and he went absolutely nuts in the round 11. He went nuts this whole game, so as you guys can see, it's 14-6. Insight was 8-7. And then on the other side, the only player to go positive was Sid, who had a monster game, it has to be said, 12-7. But, you know, he forced the round 11, but Gentlemate's just too little too late. They couldn't really get it going when it mattered. They went down pretty mightily in this one, and then they brought it back. But sometimes when you're bringing it back, the other team, the onus is on them just to defend and kind of play the way they've been playing, and that's pretty much what Koi did in the closeout round. So speaking of closeouts, we had the Toronto Koi closing it out with all the momentum on their side, of course winning this series with a hot 3-0 behind a 1.88 overload performance from Mr. Joe Deceives himself. Kleenex had a 1.14, and then Kips went even to end this series. Neptune went nuclear 32-21. I mean, 32 kills on Den Overload is insane. Neptune and Joe both had 32, and 1.52 is nuts. It's just Envoy had a 0.43, so yeah, you're not getting a lot out of that map if your SMG duo is double neck. So that's how that 3-0 went down. Then let's look at the next series where we had the Boston Breach upsetting FaZe Vegas. It was just an insane weekend. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. It was an insane weekend. So Spart came into the mix. He made a huge difference on Sunday, but not so much on Friday. And yeah, I mean, let's look at what happened, right? 1.22 KD from him, the upstanding upstart player who just got injected into the mix recently, coming over from Bush, right? So 79-65 from Spart, MVP of the match. The next best player on the team was Nasty, his AR duo 79-70, and Snoop finally went slightly paused, right? So Purge going slightly negative. I mean, 0.94, you had a great contribution to the series. You were not getting gunned egregiously. On the other side, Simp needs help, right? 1.21, 10,500 damage, 86-71. I mean, wow, somebody get this guy some help. So speaking of help, he had help map 1, ironically. I don't know where it went after that. But he went 29-18, 1.61. On the other side, Spart was the only person to go positive, 22-21. Abuza 26-19, 24-21 from Draza, and 04 was even. So yeah, I don't know what happened on this next map, but they just completely looked like a different team. Boston just looked like a better team, and yeah, they got cooked. I mean, 9-6 out of Purge, matching 9-6 out of his SMG duo Snoop, and then Spart had 9-6, not Snoop. I read that wrong. SP combo. I don't even know how. But anyways, Purge and Spart duoed up with 9-6 each. Snoopy had 6-6, and Nasty had 5-5. Then on the other side, on the FaZe side, the only player to go slightly positive was Simp with 8-7. So yeah, I mean, FaZe was just not playing together at all this weekend. They were not on the same page, and they looked terrible. If Luka came in, I would not be surprised. So 3-2 loss on the Den Overload for the FaZe side. Everybody on the Breach, of course, color coded. They went green in their traditional org colors, right? 24-17 out of Nasty, 23-17 out of Spart, 26-20 out of Snoop, and 27-23 out of Purge. So just a great showing in the map 3. They really dominated them. FaZe made it kind of close towards the end, but too little too late. In the map 4, we closed things out. I mean, FaZe absolutely got body slammed, right? 26-23 out of Simp, but Nasty was 30-24, Spart's 25-21, Purge 26-22, and Snoop was 22-25 to close out the series and send FaZe home with a lot to consider. So, in our second to last match of the weekend, this is where I finally started winning G6 credits again. We had the Miami Heretics and RenKoR going absolute takeover mode. RenKoR at a 1.62, 55-34. They played C9 how you expect most pro teams to play C9 and absolutely farm a new team who hasn't really worked much out yet. So yeah, like I said, RenKoR 1.62, Metals 1.4, 66-47, and then Super 56-41 with a 1.37. So looking at the map 1, you had 250-133 being the opening scoreline for the Miami Heretics. RenKoR was 29-14 with a 2.07 KD. Super 25-18. Metals 26-19, and Trakes went even. Then the other side, Encourage, he went even. Scar S&D went the way of the Miami Heretics, of course. We know they got a 3-0, so every map went their way, right? Metals 11-6, RenKoR 5-3, and then Super went even. Trakes 6-7. He was slightly negative. 6-7. Anyways, Hyde and Nezra had matching KDs in this map, but you know, Encourage and Okus did as well, and that's what brought them down. So 8-7 versus 3-7. You know, the 8-7 is not the cause of the loss, right? So looking at the map 3, speaking of causes of losses, we had Nezra going 31-23. He was frying, but too little, too late. You know, it was just 30, 31, and 23 kills and a loss, right? So everyone in Miami, they just played really well as a team. No one had insane kills. 29 and 22 out of medals is the highest. 25 and 17 out of super, 21 and 17 out of RenKoR, and then Trakes was negative by 2, so not really negative. So yeah, I mean Miami, they did what you expect them to, and OpTic Texas, they did what you expect them to here as well. So the last two matches of the weekend were the only G6 creds that actually got returned with some extra creds to go with it, but everything else was a loss. So your boys basically back to square one. Yeah, speaking of people who basically got back to square one, we saw AW Huke basically come back for a day, 71 and 46, 1.54 average KD, 8400 damage, and a 1.23 series IR, which is elite standards for the weekend. I believe that might be the highest one we've seen. So looking at the Vancouver Surge side, the only person to even go close to doing well was Gwen, 58 kills, 60 deaths, and his 3-0. Now on the OpTic Texas side, like I said, Huke 1.54, Dashy 50 and 37, 1.35, Shotzzy 1.15, and then Mercules 56 and 49 with the 1.14. So looking at the map one, it was 250 to 185 in favor of OpTic Texas, to the surprise of absolutely no one. But the thing that was a little bit surprising in this map was that Huke absolutely blacked out and went 35 and 20 for the win. So yeah, Huke the nuke was back and he nuked him. Dashy 23 and 16, Mercules 29 and 23. So pretty standard showing from OpTic. Shotzzy 20 and 25. I mean, not that surprising if you're blowing teams out that bad, right? Looking at the map 2, Raid S&D, this of course went the way of OpTic Texas 6-2. And Gwen was 9-7, so not really too surprising. Gwen pretty much always shows out win or loss for this Vancouver Surge team. Somebody's got to get some of the kills or the majority of the kills that go to your team in a win or a loss. That's usually Gwen, so not really that surprising. And then on the OpTic side, Shotzzy was 9-5, Huke was 8-5, Mercules 5-4, feed up, and so was Dashy with a 6-5 scoreline. So they just played Passenger, Prince, and they were chilling. And then in the map 3, they were even more chilling as Shotzzy went 26 and 18, Huke went 28 and 21, Dashy went 21 and 16, and Mercules went even to end the series and our weekend with a pretty expected 3-0, right? Yeah, that's how we ended the weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed all the COD action. If you missed anything, my phone is Siri thinks he's the main character of the show. Let's claim our G6 credits for the day. And then just one last thing before I get out of here. If you guys haven't seen any of the action from this weekend, be sure to tune into Lay Channel. I did highlights of every match this weekend. So OpTic versus Surge, Heretics versus C9, FaZe versus Breach, Mates versus Koi, OpTic versus Thieves, Surge versus Ravens, Heretics versus Koi, Falcons versus G2, Mates versus C9, FaZe versus Falcons, and then Ravens versus Breach. Everything from this weekend I have highlighted and uploaded after the match concluded, same day. So yeah, and also I broke down the round 11, the best round 11 from last week in a video I did last week. I also broke down the Gentlemates versus Royal Ravens matchup where the Gentlemates ended up winning when the Royal Ravens were outslaying them by, I believe, like 30 kills. And these are my pick'ems from last week as well as my recap, which is the video you're watching now. So yeah, got a lot of content going up on the channel all the time. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who you think would enjoy it. And hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night like I always say on these videos. Thanks for all the love and support. Recently, we've been going up with subs, view count, everything. So yeah, really appreciate all the love and support, guys. And yeah, if you haven't, be sure to check out the GPT. That is in the Discord. So join the Discord to get access to that. And catch you guys in the next one. It'll be a great morning, noon, or night like I always say. Once again, this is Chris from Fake Sports News X Rotation. However, flip me on my interwebs, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.